Hello, I'm Lorna Cole from SAC Consulting, and we're here in this area of Blanket Bog, just between Cumnock and New Cumnock. Blanket bogs are peatlands, and peatlands form over hundreds, even thousands of years when waterlogged conditions prevent the decomposition of organic matter. Peatlands were once seen as wet, unproductive, boggy areas. However, their value is becoming increasingly recognised. Peatlands provide habitat for a host of different species, including dragonflies and wading birds. They help purify water, but most important is the role they play in helping us mitigate and adapt to climate change. The sphagnum mosses in peatland, they store an immense amount of water and they regulate rainwater, preventing flooding downstream. Peatlands in Scotland are estimated to store a massive 1.7 billion tonnes of carbon, and this is equivalent to about 140 years of Scottish emissions. Unfortunately, most of our peatland in Scotland is degraded, and this means it's actively emitting carbon rather than storing it. Restoring our peatlands is therefore crucial to help Scotland meet its net zero targets. And if restoration projects are verified by the Peatland Code, this allows farmers to tap into carbon credits.
My name's Laura Curtis-Moss. I'm the People and Projects Manager for the East Ayrshire Coalfield Environment Initiative. So we're here on a peat bog in East Ayrshire to talk a little bit about why peatland is so important. So there's two different types of peatland. You get blanket bogs and you get raised bogs. Raised bogs tend to develop where there has been a lake or a pond in the past, many hundreds, if not thousands of years ago, and they will be slightly raised, so you will from some angles be able to see a slight dome, and there's almost like a lens of water in there. They also tend to be deeper peat, so 4 to 8 metres on average. A blanket bog, you'd find that up a hill or where the landscape is more varied, and they tend to be made of shallower peat, so maybe 2 to 4 metres in depth. There's a few different ways you can assess whether your peatland's healthy. Firstly, you can look to see if there is any active erosion. So an eroding peatland will have fast flowing water, and you may see bare hags and gullies where you can actually start to see exposed peat. You can also tell how healthy a peatland is by looking at the broader ecology of the area. So looking at the types of life you get there, both by looking at the invertebrates, but particularly by looking at the plant life. So a really healthy peatland will have many different species of sphagnum moss, probably growing in some nice still pools of water. Drying out peatland will tend to have more heather and more species of grass, and actually you might even be able to feel the difference when you walk across it. A healthy peatland will feel slightly bouncy as you walk along it, whereas a dry peatland, it might even sound quite crunchy as you step. Following restoration, you'll start to see an increase in biodiversity, both in terms of the types of plants. You'll see more different plants, and that's going to have a positive impact on the invertebrate life. You're going to see more dragonflies, for example. You're also going to start to see amphibians, you're going to see more small mammals, and of course you're going to start to see a lot more birds, any of the animals that predate those smaller invertebrates and mammals. Another benefit you may experience from restoration is a reduction in downstream flooding. A well-maintained peatland is going to hold much more water, and that water is going to come off the hills much more slowly. So if you live at the bottom of a hill, that could be very beneficial. Many restored peatland sites are still suitable for use by livestock. Typically, this will be at quite low stocking numbers, and we're looking particularly at animals like sheep. However, some sites are specifically managed by a regime of grazing by usually cattle, but in some parts of the world by horses as well.